Hi, everybody. This is Tuesday. Actually, it's Wednesday morning at 12:42 Eastern Daylight Time on the East Coast of the United States of America. And today is, I forgot the date. I know what day it is. It is now, we in the middle of June. Actually, today is the 27th. And tomorrow is a full moon on the 28th called the Strawberry Moon. So I just want to say hello, everybody, and thank you if you tune in. I want to send you greetings and blessings to all of you. Um, from my heart to yours, I hope that you can make it through all these weird energies and everything that's going on right now. And I wanted to give an update because at the moment there's a little bit of cloud overcast, but if you've seen any of my previous videos, anytime I see the moon out of whack, I keep an eye on it, and well, it is really out of whack right now. So I'm going to unplug I should have done this before I started this, but I want to say hello and thank you to any and all of my subs. I never expected to have as many as I have right now. I thank you very much. I'm unplugging the computer so I can turn the thing around a little bit. Now, not sure. Ooh, might have to do a little bit of shucking and jiving here. Let me try another point of view here. That's only a 40-watt bulb. What I'm trying to do is show, it's not going to show up. Okay. Let's see what happens if I do this. Better. All right, so I want to give you a view. When I'm sitting down here in my chair, you can't see the moon out the window up there. Let's see. I can't get my, turn the camera right. There we go. Nope, that's reflection. Wait a minute. No, that is the moon coming through the window. All right. So I'm just trying to give you a point of reference here in my house. Let me turn this other light off. And the reason I'm showing that is because I usually am like, oh, wait, where'd that moon go? That's reflection. Nope. Anyway, usually I just point. Well, when I'm sitting down here in this chair, here's my point to this. This is Wednesday. Sunday evening, when the moon was up, I couldn't find the moon from my chair, and so I had to lean way over to be able to see the moon because it was close. It was pretty much overhead, about maybe 5 degrees off of the 90 degree. Okay. Now, so last night we had a big thunderstorm, and so I didn't get a chance to see where the moon was coming up. But the night before that, I noticed that while I'm sitting here in my little spot here, that I could see the moon clearly without having to lean up and over to see it. So now tonight, the dang thing is where my window's about this tall. 2 nights ago, I could see it without leaning over. Now it's past halfway and almost down to the windowsill of that top window right there. Now, what does that mean? It means the earth is rotating like this. And all these storms and everything and the way the jet stream has been acting, all has to do with some of this crazy nonsense of folks trying to predict the weather. Now, I've watched several weather reports recently, and the jet stream is just doing this wild, crazy, cray cray stuff going on right now. And in the old days, you used to be able to watch the jet stream, and it fluctuated. But as I've noticed over the many years of my observations from down here in South Georgia, because I've been here at this place 35 years plus, and the house has been here, for 30 years, or at least this portion of it. So my observations from inside this room are from 30 years of observations inside this room down here in South Georgia. Okay, that just rambled out. Okay, but so anyway, when I can sit here and just crane my head up a little bit and see the full moon, which is, by the way, in my perspective, it is tilted slightly to the right. And the other night, it was really tilted to the right. So it looks like the moon has almost uprighted itself, if you will, to where the face is like perpendicular versus tilted to one side. And so I've noticed that in the moon as well. Now, I think I'll repeat it. I have this little monthly planner. It's backwards, isn't it? Yep. Anyway, but it's got the full moons in here and the names and so forth. And I've checked. No, actually, it doesn't. It's got the date of the full moon, but I went into several different other places, and then I found out that tomorrow on Thursday, actually today, no, tomorrow is strawberry moon. So you can look that up for what it is. However, now, what it seems to be happening in my observations, the moon is really sinking a lot faster. Usually it takes about a week. This has happened in like 4 days. This is the 4th day, okay? Now, why do I say this? It's because we also happen to be at the solstice, the summer solstice. So this is the first full moon after the summer solstice, okay? So there's a lot of energy in the cosmos right now. And if you look outside your window and view what you got in your position, as I've stated before, pick a set location. Like I go outside too, but the skeeters are bad tonight, and I just didn't want to go out there and fight them, quite frankly, and not in the mood for bug spray. But now, you know what? Now that I can see the face again, he's actually leaned more to the right, like this face. That's interesting. 2 nights ago, I went into town for milk and, condiment kind of thing. And I was coming back and watching the moon rise, because when I come home, I'm headed west and, northwest. But anyway, so I could see the moon plain as day. And I was like, wow, how much he was leaning. And, as the moon travels across the sky, it should stay, because the moon's not supposed to be moving around. That's what they tell us, Oh, but the moon is stationary. Well, then how come the face changes in a single night? Either that or the Earth is going back and forth like this. And right now, I don't quite buy that. Now, are we wobbling? Oh, yeah. And the amount of earthquakes and things that are going on. And it's a very good thing that, I'm sorry for the people in Hawaii, but it's really good for the planet, because that's a big pressure point that's letting off. Now, if you were to pick a place that would have the least amount of damage, we'll say, on the planet, if you had to pick a place to pop off steam to keep the planet from doing a big cracking thing, unfortunately, if it had to be me, I would pick some place that had least amount of population, furthest away from blah, blah, blah. And unfortunately, Hawaii fits the bill. The other part of it is like halfway between, I guess from us, it would be the Western Pacific, us being the Eastern Pacific Rim. But to that point, though, the increase in volcanoes and stuff is going to go on. So if anybody knows anybody that's living near anything that's hot coming out of the ground. Now, I've gotten a really strange and interesting kind of download, if you will. And I've had this in the past. And so it's like all I can do is just relate it. You know what I'm saying? So, but long time ago, I tried to move to Arkansas. 4 times I tried to move to Arkansas. Go up into the Ozarks, had a place picked out, the whole 9 yards. I mean, and I got drugged back here, South Georgia. Now I'm seeing in strange ways why. A friend of mine and I, actually my son and I went out there and spent 10 days in Arkansas back about 5 or 6 years ago. But when it rains there in the Ozarks, the mountains come right down to the river and there's no floodplain. So when the rain falls, it all collects in the river and the river comes up real fast. One year when I was there back in, I don't know, about 2002, 3, something like that, maybe 2003, the river came up 14 feet in like an hour. And there were people stranded along that river, and it was really big in the news. And they were coming in with helicopters and pulling people out. It was a really bad deal. And it was just because they had heavy rain. Now, with that said, we were on the river. We were the first people on the river after that flood. And there were tents and camping gear 20 feet up in the trees. And the river was still, by their standards, was at flood stage. And I told them, I said, look, man, I'm from South Georgia. We got the Flint River down here, you know, and when that puppy floods, you know, it's 40 feet deep. You're saying flood stage is 14 foot. Sorry, but no comparison in my opinion, you know, from my personal background here in South Georgia, right? So, but anyway, we hit the river, and sure enough, man. So if we were already, you know, their normal's like 5 or 6 feet, it's a really lazy river there on the Buffalo. But man, there was stuff way up in the trees. There were snakes everywhere. Just, I mean, high up in the trees, you know, where snakes don't normally climb. But since the water had went down as fast as it did in less, well, it was overnight, basically. Because when we were there to check in with the canoe rental and all this stuff, the guy was like, man, I'm going to have to cancel you. Man, the river's like 28 feet or something. We were like, nah, no problem, you know. Okay, let's see what it's like in the morning. It went down 14 feet overnight. When we got on the river, it was at 14 foot, which at that bridge was considered low stage flood level because it had the beach. They really like the beaches up. I mean, the sandbars and beaches up there along the river. Beautiful. But anyway, but when you can't get to the sandbar or the beach and the water's up to the edge, they consider that flood stage. Anyway, why I got brought back to Georgia, I think it's because of some things like that. The other thing, there's a bunch of people that want to go there, and it's a beautiful place, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But one thing that I was warned about, and one of the places that I love to go is near Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now, nobody seems to consider this, and I'm tossing it out there. But if you live in Arkansas and you live anywhere near Hot Springs, Arkansas, I would be very careful because the magma is moving under the United States. We've had Georgia had an earthquake. I was like about a 3.0-ish or slightly smaller in a few days ago. And right in middle Georgia, like a weird place for it to go off kind of thing. Now, when I found out where it was on Google Map, I went, oh my gosh. And I'll tell you why. I know a secret. And near where that earthquake was, there are some really poor folk out there. I'm talking, you think about, and now don't get me wrong, I'm not putting anybody down, but if you think of the old South with all of the black folks sitting on the front porch with their tea and the rocking chairs, you know, waving at the cars going by, that's what that area is like. It's just a laid back old South, okay? And it's mixed, but I have to say there are more blacks that live poor like that than the whites. But there are a large amount of poor white folk in that same county. The reason I know this is because I went there and did puppet shows several years in a row, and I got to know that area. Traveled around. It's near the Oconee National Forest up there, and there is also a gated community. I am not lying. Between the houses, the fences, the guards, all of the rigmarole that's in this quote gated community, and it's where George Bush would come down. It's where Cheney had a summer house or something like that. There were several top Republicans back in the Bush administration that had multi-million-dollar houses, and that's in South Georgia. They were worth, if you tried to buy them, you couldn't buy them anywhere else because they bought the property for cheap. Well, it's really curious that I know that down here in the South, under some of these plantations, there are hand-dug tunnels and things that were dug back in the Civil War by the slaves down here. Several of the plantations have humongous cellars where they store their carriages, and just unbelievable. Some of the plantations down here still give tours, so you can see these things for yourself. But I digress. Now, with that said, though, when I was up there before and drove around up there looking at this place, now it's been a good 6-8 years since I've been up there, but it was heavy duty back then. Now, the economy's just gotten worse, and it was already a really low economic area to begin with. So, and the rich folks, they're rich, and everybody else is like, if you made $40,000 in a year, you would be considered high income for that particular county and that town, which I won't name. But you can look it up on Google Earth. I'm already giving too much out. But to the point, though, there was speculation because of Cheney and all these folks and all these, I can't remember, there was one of the really high-ranking cabinet members or something in the Bush administration, George Jr. The reason I know that is because when I went there, it was either a Lutheran or a Methodist church. What's the other one? Anyway, it wasn't Catholic and it wasn't Baptist. It was an Anglican church. But I spoke with the pastor and some of the locals there and was like, wait, what's that big thing out of town? Oh, well, that's where all the rich people live, you know? And, oh, really? Oh, yeah, they've been constructing, and they did a lot of digging in the dirt. So they probably, if that area doesn't have a bunker, I'd be greatly surprised. I mean, there's a World War II bunker south of me 20 miles that's listed as a FEMA camp underground. 37,000 square feet, I believe, underground. After 9/11, get this, there are a lot of locals. We have near me, and just look on the map for Meigs, Georgia, but near me, there is an airport that has a runway that will allow Air Force One to land. Now, this area down here during World War II was a big time deal. Moultrie still has Spence Field. It was a big Air Force / Army base. A lot of stuff going on down here during World War II. And so it was said that during the 9/11, there were a lot of speculations as to where GW Jr. went. Where did the plane go? Because it didn't land at any known air base, airport. And there are a lot of folks that remember hearing a huge, it's hard to miss, a huge airplane landing, you know, down around here, right? And that he was scurried off to that underground bunker here in South Georgia. By the way, that you didn't know that one. Nobody knows that one but a few of us down here in this community. But it's there. I can't really prove it, but there are a lot of eyewitnesses from folks and chattering, and you know, back then I was doing engineering work and working with the theater and doing a lot of side contracted work, stuff like that. And so I knew a lot of the contractors, plumbers, blah, blah, blah. I did some work on the side with them, you know, back and forth. Anyway, small town. And so people knew things. People saw things. It was kind of hard to miss a jumbo jet landing basically in a big field outside of town. I mean, it's a legitimate runway. Don't get me wrong. That's not my point. But we don't get jumbo jets landing here often. It's also well known that Dick Cheney used to come down here and go hunting a lot. I mean, they literally would close off downtown Thomasville so that he could go in and shop at one of these special highfalutin shops, you know, rich people can only buy out of, which happened to be the same. I mean, there was the sporting goods shop that I can't remember the name of, and then the theater. And I mean, we shared the same wall. So I came out of the theater one afternoon because I'd been working on a stage set, and I'd come out there with all these Secret Service agents around. I just hightailed it back in, locked the door, and just looked out the window. Sure as shit, it was Dick Cheney, you know. And also back in the, if you remember the Dick Cheney things, where he shot one of his, somebody that went with him when he went hunting back when they were in office, happened north of here near Albany, Georgia. There's humongous plantations up there where they, where folks come down and hunt big plantations. Okay, long time history. I mean, before the Civil War, Thomasville, Georgia, was the end of the railway. It didn't go all the way into Florida because Florida was still kind of sort of a Florida wasn't the original 13. Anyway, to the point though, so a lot of big business, a lot of folks used to come down here, and this was the as far as you could go back in the day. And so train lines and this and that. So there's a lot of history down here. All right. What's that got to do with the moon and earth and all this kind of stuff? Well, I guess I just kind of went sideways a little bit, except to say that there are some things going on now that have to do with politics and stuff and money and, you know, the whole gamut of things. And I have mentioned some things in the past, and I'll drop a couple of little hints in here. I have done my due diligence and have gone back through and checked several places and several folks. And we're these well, until Dog Days start, which is in the end of July, sort of. That there's going to be some really, really, really interesting things happen. Now, from the cosmos point of view, the Earth's magnetic shield is way low. We are getting hammered by cosmic rays. Just go out and check. The Schumann resonance, which is the vibration of Mother Earth, has been spiking off the charts. I've spoke with many people here recently, observed in some chat rooms, and folks are just like, you know, tired. Oh my God. Like the other night, it was like, I was like, I'm going to go get me some coffee and I'm going to come back and I'm going to do something. And I went to the kitchen and stopped and turned around and boom, I was like, I got to find a couch. It was like somebody literally flipped a switch on me and Dave was out. So, but then I find out that a lot of other people at around the same time for a period of about 24 hours, give or take, across the planet are having the same issues. So I'm not saying, well, you know, but it was just really odd how I was like, well, okay. And I felt like really geared up at the time. So other folks are having these same type issues. All right. So compound that with a full moon, summer solstice. The Earth is wobbling like a woo-woo this way. Now, from my position, because the moon was up ahead, so in order for it to go south on me, now the moon could be moving in its orbit too, but the Earth itself is so out of whack that I don't think the moon's moving near as much as the Earth is wobbling, and these are my reasons. Because of the volcanic activity, the magma under the mantle is moving. We on top are moving at one speed. The magma, magma underneath, it becomes lava when it hits the air. I know. But the magma is traveling at a different speed. And with all the fracking and everything that's been going on, the fact that Mother Earth is expanding, and I want to bring this point up to some folks. If you will go back in history before World War II, when Admiral Byrd made his journey to the Arctic with airplanes, and they flew into the inner Earth. Okay. Now, a lot of people, oh, that's a bunch of bunk. Admiral Byrd didn't fly into any hole in the Earth or anything like that. Well, here's the deal. As I look back on things over time, no one has ever really poo-pooed that idea. Oh, but that was conspiracy. No, there's still evidence out there of Admiral Byrd on black and white TV being interviewed and him discussing the North Pole and discussing the South Pole. Now, I got to thinking recently, I was like, well, okay, what about this? Well, I just don't believe in the solid core. I'm sorry. I do believe in an Earth. Now, I can't really vouch for any type of name of being. I don't go into names. I just don't. Let's just call them good folk, okay? Because I've had what some would call messages or whatever. I love to go spelunking. I've been in a bunch of caves down here in South Georgia that very, very few people have ever even know exist. So there are places in the earth I have crawled into the earth as much as, well, we took some string tape and did some measurements on this one expedition we went in, and we were easily 6,000 feet inside this cave, and 5,200 and something is a mile. So we were well inside, a mile inside this cave under the ground. And very few people even know that there is even a hole there, but I digress. So, but while in the earth, it takes a 75-foot rope once you go down to the bottom of this ravine, and the ravine is several hundred feet deep. Well, okay, the ravine to where it drops off into the main cave is at least 100 feet. I'm not going to over exaggerate, but when you're standing down and you look up at the top of that ravine, it looks further than 100 feet. Now, from where the lip of that ravine drops into the main cave, you need a 100-foot rope. I know, I bought one of those 1.25-inch big old manila buggers way back in the day. Tie it around a big boulder at the top, put some knots in it, and toss that bugger over. Now, it's between 60 and 75 feet down that rope. Now, when you're looking down into this hole, there is what folks call a chimney off to the right. And it's a really little squeezy thing that crickles and cranks and whatever. But if it has been raining a little bit and there's some moisture in that cave, which caves are usually moist, that chimney is slicker than Albu. And when you get to the bottom of it, there's like a 7-foot drop from the bottom of that chimney to the bottom of the cave. So I went down at one time. I was like, well, when you get there, all you got to do is just pull your feet in and drop. I was like, what the? I was making some noise. So I bought a rope the next time I went in. So, but anyway, but being inside these caves and spending a lot of time in this one particular one, there's just a feeling, but I never felt like there was some big, I'm an old sci-fi guy, okay? And there was a particular sci-fi movie back in the day, and some kind of aliens, no, it wasn't alien. No, it was just it was a mutant spider from a nuclear testing site out west, right? And this big old ass spider would come out and grab people and take it in. Well, I lived in Tampa, Florida, where we had great big granddaddy longlegs. Now, the spiders are about this big around, and I'm not joking, but the body was only about this big around. And very rarely do they bite anybody unless you lay on them or something. They was always hanging around inside my house or around my bed. They'd flip on the light at the middle of the night to check on us kids, and there'd be one of them damn big old spiders like right beside me on the wall. And Mom kept a clean house now. We never figured out how them big old suckers got in, but anyway, they did. So I don't really like spiders a lot, So when I'm down for one particular cave I was in, I had that feeling like, oh my God, there's giant spiders that are going to come out and eat me and weave me up. And well, once I got over that, I went, oh, cut it out, grow up. It was an old movie thing. But having said that, though, the places that I've been in have not felt malevolent in any way, And in fact, I continue to be called to a particular place not far from my house that I found out finally that where this particular, I've been looking for the last 35 years. And, oh, yeah, it's just right over on the other side of the Megs over there. Well, I couldn't find it. Nobody would tell me. And I finally found it. So anyway, another hole in the ground. Very, 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 very few people know about, that is on the northern end of where I went in here in South Georgia. It's sort of a spelunker deal. You can speak to someone on a one-to-one, but I don't want to publish this over the internet because these places exist. And if you just do a little bit of Google searching, you'll find them. So, but none of them are public. And I'm trying to work out a deal now to where I can get permission to go in this one. Anyway, I got to find somebody crazy enough to crawl down in a hole in the ground with me too, though. I'll be 66 and I could give a rat's patoot. I'm ready to go back down in a hole in the ground if that's what it takes. But some of the sites that I've seen inside these little holes in the ground that nobody else has been in is just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, I've been in Mammoth Cave. I've been in a bunch of caves out in Arkansas and Missouri and over in that area. I've been in caves in North Georgia. I've been in caves around Inverness, Florida. Several places in the middle of the state I've been in caves. I've been to the Florida Cavern State Park up around Mariana. Where I go, that's like the entrance, and then you get into the cave, And we measured this one particular, what looks like a rock. And from where the water was in the bottom of the cave floor up to the top was about 22 feet, between 20 and 25 feet, 22. We'll leave it at that. But then we poked up as high as we could go. And there's an old, back in the, they still use this to check for wood, but basically you can take your thumb and your forefinger and step back and go, okay, now if that is a known distance, you just back up and go, okay, if that's 22 feet, then if I put my little finger on top of the hump, well, holy crap, it's twice as high. So these caves are huge. Now, a lot of crawling around and blah, 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 and there are no paths or trails or anything. And so my expertise as far as being in the ground is not a professional, but I consider myself, at least back then, a highly skilled amateur. So I believe the earth is hollow. I do. And what's going on right now is this expansion. Now, when you go back, there's some of these physicists talk out either side of their mouth. Oh, yeah, well, Admiral Byrd flew into the middle of the earth. Well, but you can't fly in the middle of the earth because it's molten lava or magma. Oh, yeah, but you can't go in there because of this or that. Well, it has to be molten because, well, it has to be. Why? Well, they feel, that because there's magma under the earth, it must go all the way to the surface. Now, they haven't drilled down there. They have not a clue. It's all speculation. Oh, they've done ground penetration, and they've done this, and they've done that. What is the odd thing to me, and I may have brought this in another video, but as this update, I want you to bring this to your attention again. If we had a solid core that was spinning, when an earthquake goes off in Hawaii, how come they can pick it up, around the planet? They did some testing years ago and they found out that on certain earthquakes, the earth rang like a bell, like what they did to the moon. Blew up something up there and the moon hollow. This is common to the planets because if you take centrifugal force and spin something long enough, it's going to create a vortex in the middle of it. I mean, if you just take a pan of water and stir it, you can see there's going to be, a funnel created. And it would seem a lot easier if it would be like putting tape on a clacker on a bell to have molten goo inside the earth, because it would dampen the sound of the earthquakes and the vibrations and all this other stuff. So it's like, so you're telling me that this earthquake has a broad spectrum thing like this, which goes further, like halfway to the earth or the core, but it's felt in Afghanistan or place. So that's what made me go back and think, well, wait a minute. Nobody ever really went in. If you look on the internet, there's some people who just say, oh, Admiral Byrd was a kook. Admiral Byrd was a kook. But nobody's jumping down, up and down, going, Admiral Byrd was wrong. Because I went back. There's speculation of people. But if Admiral Byrd, if that was that weird back then, now this was in the late 40s and 50s when some of these black and white interviews are going on. And I've watched them. It's basically the same one. Some are chopped up more than the other. But to the point, though, here's Admiral Byrd being interviewed, and he's describing how he flew in and how this and this and that and that. Okay. Well, nobody told him. Nobody came out and said, Admiral Byrd, you must be a frickin' kook. And they're still not. There are those just naysayers. But Roswell's fake. Pick another subject. But Admiral Byrd flying into the earth hasn't been like jumped on, debunked or whatever. But not like all these other things have. So I started, scratching my head going, now, maybe folks, they're just going to let that ride and not bring it into the future. But the fact that there's still stuff out there and, and I viewed it and I go, I remember that as a kid because I was born in 52. And I remember some of that stuff being interviewed as a little kid going, what's he talking about, my mom? Flying? Can you fly to the middle inside the earth? So with that said, so these pieces have been kind of coming into me, right? And earthquakes, why does the earth ring? If we had a solid core, tape on the clacker on a bell, Admiral Byrd flying in. Okay. So on a cosmic level, folks are starting to talk about the fact that the inner beings, the inner earth folks, have been helping to drive out the nasties. In fact, the recent report from the Galactics are claiming that they finally have a defense screen around the earth from any incoming pirates. Okay. And it happened consequently almost at the exact same time that Donald Trump said, oh, General Dunford, we're going to have a space force. You take care of it. It was almost the same time. So the underground news saying, well, and galactic information, how much do you trust? Well, about 10 days later, this information's coming in and and it's like, oh, interesting. Something to keep in mind. So I know I photographed earlier something in the sky, and I'm like, I'll see it's a star that I haven't figured out which star it was, but when I zoomed in with my little camera, it's on this camera right here, and I put this into an easy tripod thingy. I jam it down in there and pull this up and get it just right, and then that way I don't have to touch the camera and wiggle around. But anyway, I have issues trying to get this thing to share screen. So, but anyway, I zoomed in on this particular star, and I know about variable stars and things. I've been studying astronomy since I was a little kid. Took, adult classes in college because I wanted to be an astronomer, and then realized there was no money in it. But that's beside the point. I still have been watching the stars and everything else. Here, we'll just put that right there. My friend the alien, yeah, come to visit me. So my observations show that in the last 4 days, now see, like the moon has already moved into the tree. Okay, but see, that's because I watch where the position is. Now, in 4 days' time, it's moved about 5, 10, 15 degrees in the sky. Now, also, though, if you look at the weather patterns and the meteorologists who are screaming, I was 2 days ago, I guess it was, they were talking about that the jet stream is so wacky, they used to be able to predict the weather. And I'm like, well, most of us know they've been doing some weird weather modification on us. But besides that, they didn't necessarily control the jet streams because that's some powerful stuff. They could do some directing and a little bit of motion, but we're getting the northern jet stream wanting to come all the way down to the equator, and the southern one wanting to come all the way up to the equator, excuse me. And there have been a few times where the jet streams have crossed the equator, either into the southern hemisphere or up into the northern hemisphere, depending on where you live on a globe. So I have calculated with my little protractor that I usually, it's probably here covered up in all this junk on my table at the moment. But from my position, 15 degrees to have the moon go down because it's been up here. So now it's moved to here, and to here. So it's falling south. I don't mean falling out of the sky south, but I mean it's sinking slowly south every single day for the last 4 days. It usually takes a week to 10 days to do what it's done in 4 days. Thus, that's why I'm bringing this up now. This is the fastest I've seen the Earth. The Earth. So from my position, in order for the moon to come down in the sky, that means the Earth has to rotate up. Holy mackerel. We are way ahead of schedule. Now, like I stated earlier, full moon, summer solstice, okie dokie, lots of cosmic stuff, and all this magma rolling around at a higher rate of speed. Because just think of it like some really bad clogged up motor oil. And if some people get this and others won't. But if you look at a quart of oil, it'll say 5W30 or something on it. All right. 5 is thick and 30 is thin. All right. So, right. I got that right. So, but anyway, so it's like when your oil's going to be really, really thick until the engine warms up. And then it becomes more viscous. It becomes more runny. Okay. Well, now as the Earth is heating up, guess what? So is the magma inside the mantle. It just makes sense. And with our rotation, and of course, we're doing this whoppy thing. We've gotten more information now in from Antarctica to where they have noticed that the ice is melting faster due to the underwater volcanoes that's heating the Antarctica from below, and that they're actually seeing a land rise that's higher than it was because the pressure of the ice pushes down on the land mass. So it's like you know, it's like you put your thumb on your arm and push in and then let go. All right. And if you do that to a vein on your arm, you can shut the blood flow off to that vein. We played around in that in biology in high school, right? And you can do this thing. But my point is, so just take the skin of us and think about Mother Earth with all these veins of water and ore and everything, you know. So cosmic rays, everything's warming up. We're sitting in the middle of a microwave oven, more or less. And there's more information I have found out about Sirius B. And I looked for the original video and I couldn't find it. Now, I remember David Wilcox and Jimmy Church talking about it on Fade to Black one night several months ago. And there was a video of the astronomers who took telescopic views of the constellation. There's Sirius A and Sirius B. They're not necessarily a binary star, but kind of. They got their own solar systems. But anyway, so, and that's in the dog star system, I believe. But anyway, Sirius B, there was a bright flash. I guess you would say a Carrington event from the sun in Sirius B. And you could just see this thing go and spread out. And then the planet that was supposed to be like Earth was just like a crispy critter. And now the information is that that energy, being able to see it, takes longer than the galactic wave takes to get us. So if we're just now seeing the light from it, that also means that any gamma, delta particles, whatever, is coming right along with it. Does that make sense? And so now there's little reports popping up now, 6 or 8 weeks. Maybe it's been 2 months. I don't know. It's been within the last 6 months that David and Jimmy Church talked about this. Okay. So interesting interview and information, by the way. But so now it's that information, though, is starting to show up in other little science things. Astronomy news, blah, 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 little nooks and crannies, you know, it's coming out. If I could read Russian, they probably, you know, put the whole thing out there. So that's another thing to consider. Now, one of the things I want to say, I am not trying to put fear porn, but there are just things going on. And in fact, if anything, I've been told that because Hawaii's going off, and because some of these other volcanoes are going off, and because of literally some galactic help, because what people are photographing near the sun, yes, there's supposed to be a sun simulator. Okay. I'm not really sold on it, but I say there's a high probability, because if you look at the sun through the images coming off the satellites, you're going to see that what used to be like, you know, rays coming off of the sun, now you're only getting these 2 spikes coming off of either side. Really strange the way the rays are coming off of the Earth. So now folks are taking pictures of big, huge, round objects. Now, from my standpoint, the galactics have told me 2 or 3 years ago that they were already in the asteroid belt and hiding, basically, and a lot of them in the Kuiper belt outside of Pluto and out there, because for them, it don't take but a squat to get to us, all right? And there's so many videos of the sun on Cora and the different satellites. You can see these puppies streaking by in 2s and 3s, groups of 5 now. I counted about 3 weeks ago, there were a group of ships, objects in a group. I think there was 11 or 12 of them. This frame, and then gone. Boy. So, but what they're doing is they are stationing these huge planets, bigger than the moon, some of them bigger than the Earth. Whether you believe me or not, here it is. They're stationing these things in our solar system. That's why they keep coming up with these Oh, well, we found another near Earth object. It just swung by the Earth. They're putting these things in here on purpose. Why? Because if a huge electrical jolt hits our solar system, which they're predicting is a really big one coming still, we've just been getting parts of it, that when it hits the solar system, they're going to act like little capacitors. In other words, a capacitor is an electronic object that will store a charge. All right. And they're in everything, you know. You can make them out of paper towels and oil and stuff. But anyway, so but they're placing these things in the solar system so that when it hits, it won't just hit the few planets in the solar system. This energy is going to dissipate. Sort of like instead of one bolt of lightning to the Earth, you're going to see fingers go everywhere. So you're not going to get all the direct line energy. We're going to get scattered energy. Still going to be big time fun from what we understand. And I know a lot of Earths are getting hammered by this energy here these last few days. And the Schumann resonance is picking up. I mentioned that, I think, but I'll bring it back up. So all of these things are key. And I've been looking on the science, but you got to be careful because these, how we say down here in the South, these some bitches are lie to your ass, you know, and they've been doing that. So what's coming up? All right. It's coming back out. And I got to scratch my head. Now, I'm always prepared. I need to charge my batteries up a little better. And I've been working on this solar. I got a solar collector, but I fried 2 batteries because I thought it was a 12-volt charger, solar collector, 24-volt, fried 2 batteries I did. Now, I'm working on it. But anyway, a step down. So it's coming back around that what's fixing to happen is because of politics. And the fact that the Supreme Court, like just yesterday or Friday or whatever, or maybe it was today, has upheld, you know, the Trump thing with the immigrants. There are things going on the Mexican border. Pick a spot. And there are folks down there going to stop this child trafficking and drug smuggling and stuff. They are hot to trot about this. And Donald Trump, now that he took care of North Korea and calmed little Kimmy down and got the CIA out of there, he's going to concentrate on our southern border. Now, I've heard from 3, and I always wait on the third one. But there is some scuttlebutt going around, and I'm just going to put this out there. Don't believe me, but I hope they do this. And that there are some military folks who are going to go in and basically invade certain portions of Mexico to take out these drug cartels. They're just going to go into some of these compounds and they're just going to take them out because the Mexican government, by being complicit, is supporting this. Now, the folks down in Mexico City don't give a crap what's going on up there at the border near us. We do. So the northern territories of Mexico are in a lot of ways just renegade territories. Now, many friends have been through there, et cetera, and they're like, you know, you'll be driving down the road and the cops will come, the federales will come and stop you, ask you what you're doing, make you pull out all your money, and then, you know, if you want to continue, you'll donate. One friend of mine told me, you know, he had like $400 American and he ended up with 2. Because if he wanted to continue on south into Mexico, he had to pay the federales for protection. It goes on all the time. And that's the cops. You know, that's not talking about the banditos in places. So to the point, though, that's free range mess in there. And for a long time, you know, we've been sending our folks over Afghanistan and Syria, and why don't we put them down towards Mexico and stop the crap down there? Well, rumor has it that they're gearing up for it. And there are a lot of signs to point to it. Now, this is not an invasion, but it's going to look like it's an it's an invasion. They're going to blame it on Trump invading Mexico when basically we are tired of them butt wipes down there across our southern border, creating us havoc up here. And I mean, even yesterday or today it was where Trump says build a wall, and the Mexican president says, y'all hit the border, head for the border. Now, knowing a lot of Mexican folks down here over the years, beautiful, wonderful people. Very few people that I have met of the Mexican nationality or whatever, or background. And many of the folks that I knew who I thought had green cards didn't. I spoke about this one gentleman who came across with some coyotes, and they left him stranded in the desert down there, and his shoes melted to his feet. They had to cut his tennis shoes off the bottom of his feet. It was horrible. I mean, I helped bandage his feet. That's how I know. And helped work in his place because he worked in a restaurant. I won't go any further. That's far enough. But it's been that's been 8 years ago now. 7 years ago. But to the point, it's still happening. And so these folks just want a chance, But in this, I'm just going to call him Joe. That's not his name. But Joe was like, Mr. Dave, I tried to get a green card. American government make it so difficult. No green card, no green card. They hate us Mexicans, And then I had other folks who came who flew into the United States. They've got their passports and all their stuff and everything, and they were getting denied. They were getting their passports stamped wrong, and so that they couldn't come back in the United States. When they were married in the United States and had dual citizenship thing anyway, and they were not allowed to come back to see their spouses because some idiot on purpose stamped the wrong thing on their passport. A lot of people having that issue. Literally millions of dollars spent every year, people trying to get themselves out of what our screwed up immigration department has done. Folks wouldn't be sneaking under if it was just made simpler to do it correctly. Seriously. I've had people a lot of migrant workers down around here in South Georgia. And I have friends of mine who go out and teach English to the migrant workers. And at the same point, they teach us Spanish, or, Mexican. But so I don't have anything bad to say about these people. They're hard workers. They pay what taxes they pay. A lot of them are paid under the table, so they don't pay Social Security, which kind of pisses me off. But, but to have these people have to pay a coyote, but coyote is how they pronounce it. And that's the difference is, he is, he's a low scum life. I mean, the newspaper today or the news today was about, they found a young child that was like 50 or 60 or 80 miles from the border without their parents. That happens all the time. They can't control the border. If you've ever been south towards Mexico, they've moved the border about 50 or 60 miles away from the border, and they have double checkpoints. But that space in between is a no man's land, which is really creepy. So the idea is they want to go in there and take out some of these cartels. And that we need to have a little bit of food supply, because in case some of these, I used to be a Democrat. So some of these folks that, you need to make sure you got some good supplies. Now, with that said, we're also supposed to be getting some more stronger storms coming in. Okay. Besides that little side thing with the military, but we need to keep that in mind because, it was real easy. The other day I went into the store and it was like they were out of bread and they were out of milk and they were out of this and they were that. And I was like, what? This is just my little local store. Okay. But I happened to hit it when everybody else went to the store, and they were cleaned out. So out here in the country, my little store, now I still had provisions here, but other folks didn't. I gave this one lady a loaf of bread because I already had a loaf in the freezer. I just wanted to get it back up. And when I saw that the shelf was empty, and it was Saturday evening, no delivery on Sunday. I want to get an extra loaf of bread. I said, here, I got some. I can do without. But there are folks who are already doing without with whatever food shortage it is right now. So y'all need to put this in the back of your head. Have extra batteries, have certain things. I've discussed some of this stuff I won't go into now because I'm going to cut this one short, but shorter than I normally do anyway. But it's really important what's going on in the earth now. As a side note to having food and whatever, if I want to make this a positive statement. If you haven't studied edible wild foods, I would strongly suggest that you start, because many, 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 many things are, I mean, even in the city, there are things that grow up between, the cracks in the sidewalk. Now, I'm not, there's smog and dirt and dust and stuff in the city, but to the point though, if you were starving, do you know which weed you can pull? And, can you eat it raw, or must you cook it a little bit first? I mean, what's the deal? Now, a lot of Americans live at least a couple of miles, to the country. Now, if you know what you're looking for, you don't have to go ramshackle a farmhouse or something. You just might ask the farmer if you can walk his fields. Or maybe somewhere, a large public area, a state park or something like that. And that, because if you know what to look for, and I'm going to do a video on medicinals, herbals, and edible plants. Now, depending on where you are in the world, yours is going to differ. But I'm going to use what I know about the United States and some tropical regions, but mostly the United States. But if you're from another country, you need to do your due diligence. You'll be surprised at how many things you can eat. And I mean, if it got right down to it, I mean, there are some bugs that I'll never eat a roach, I don't think, but who knows? Maybe chopped up in a stew. Nah. But I mean, ants or something else, that I know are high in protein. Also, like termites are very high in protein. If I'm stuck in a situation where I need protein, then I'm going to go. I've eaten termites raw. They taste like wood, but they're a nutty flavor that if you put them in with something else, you're going to get the protein of the termite and not have to, okay, just stir it up in the stew and don't look at it, Good, but it's high in protein. Now, if I'm starving, I'm not going to eat another person. There's just no way. Will I eat a termite? Yeah, in a heartbeat, Would I eat another person or go into, nope, wrong, and I would seriously think twice about shooting a deer or anything. I mean, I wouldn't eat my chickens, I'd wait for them to lay an egg and eat the egg. Now, if the chicken died or something happened, that's another story, especially if I'm starving. But to the point though, how many people, I mean, I know you can shut my lights off and yeah, I'll have to get out the batteries and do this, that, and the other thing. And yeah, I'll have to draw water out of the well with a bucket. And yeah, I'll have to heat up, my stuff for hot water on the stove or whatever. Yeah. But I got enough propane to last me a couple of years on how I use propane. I've got water stored. I've got other stored. I've got batteries stored. I got the other day, as a matter of fact, it's like these little garden lights. The rest of it is down on the floor. I was doing something with it, but there was a package of 6 of these for $5. You put them out in the sun, and if you need light in the house, you take 2 of these things in the house with you at night, and you can read by them. And they're less than $1 a piece. I got 3 or 4 dozen of them hanging around. Some of them are brand new, never been outside, but they also have a rechargeable battery in here that if you had to buy the battery in the store would cost you $250. You get a solar charger You got the gizmos inside underneath these two screws right here to change. It's a voltage regulator, all solid state, and you got a really bright little LED here, okay, for $1. You want to find, you want extra lighting, worry about this and that. You know, if you buy batteries for your regular flashlight, how many people buy rechargeable? I buy almost extensively rechargeable. Only problem was about a year ago, Walmart and all these other stores stopped selling rechargeable batteries. You can't find them anymore. You can find the AA, and you can find them in a 4-pack with a battery charger. Well, I got a dozen battery chargers, but I can't find just the batteries. And the AAA batteries, which goes in my headlamps and all these little lights and everything, at Walmart, this flashlight is $1. It's got 3 batteries in it. Now, they're not rechargeable, but there are 3 batteries in here, and the little buggers are bright as heck. This flashlight is 2 years old. It's never replaced the batteries, and it's still good. I got a dozen of these things all over the place. You can hang them up from the thing, and, you know, for $30 at Walmart, you can get a whole rash of cheap little LED lights and stuff, camping things, and yard lights and stuff like this. If you haven't thought about it, go spend $5 because it's a cheap way to have light. I don't care if you're in an apartment complex, you go up on the roof, climb those, you get it. All right. So that said, the other thing too, and I've been trying to explain to folks, and when I see things in threes, I have to bring them out. Now, this other third thing that I've seen has to do with if the lights go out, okay. Now, I've always said have at least 1 5-gallon bucket. You should have 2, one for collecting water and one for pooping in, all right? Now, you should have some sand or kitty litter or something like that. But like me out here in the country, I got plenty of dirt. You should have at least 2 5-gallon buckets. They're cheap. You can find them. You use a little bleach, clean them out. Use 1 for toting water in. You're going to want water to pour in your sink, to heat water with. You're going to have something to tote water around in. It's really difficult in pots and pans and stuff. Make sure you have a couple of 5-gallon buckets. You can store stuff in them. You can sit on them. You can use them for a chair, all kinds of stuff. Now, the other thing is your point of view. So your lights go out and you say, well, I got candles, I got flashlights. Okay. Well, how much food do you have? Well, now this is what I wish to make sure folks get. The more you put in your mouth, the more has to come out the other end. Now, as a survivalist, if you want to go on a camping trip and you eat 3 meals a day, that means you got to poop. And I don't like hanging my rear end out over a stump, taking a boo in the woods. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not that I'm proud or anything. It's just damn difficult. And bugs and things and chiggers and you know the rest. So with that said, though, if you keep your food quantity down to a snack for breakfast, take an energy bar. It's probably better that you have it at lunch because you can work off a lot of it versus eating at dinner time and going to bed on a full stomach and blah, 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 and waking up. So you're better off having your big meal sometime midday or at least towards before 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. All right. And then have a snack for 8 or 9 o'clock, whatever, before you go to bed. Okay. But snack, a food and a snack. Okay. Now, why? Because if you have to go into this for the long haul and you've planned on 3 meals a day, you're now going to be able to last 3 times as long. And you're going to be better off for it because, like I said, you're going to have to produce heat, food, fire, whatever, water to mix it with, whatever it's going to take. So 3 meals a day is going to require that. Now, if you just drop back for yourself, and trust me, there's a lot of people who just, if I don't have about 3 meals, I'm going to die. No, you're not. I've discussed this in the past, and I need to discuss it again. You're not going to die if you don't get 3 meals a day. I mean, I have tested on myself. How long can I live on a couple of cans of beans and some crackers, which that was a sideline for me, but to the point, or some bread or whatever, And come to find out that, as much as it gets a little monotonous, 3 cans of baked beans and a little bit of side stuff and a few fig bars during the day, and some salt, some crackers, just crackers with salt, because the salt are real important to get back in your body. So I lost weight. I felt better instead of trying to put up with 3 meals a day and doing the dishes, and it cost a whole lot less. I used to not be able to afford my lifestyle because I was eating 3 meals a day. I couldn't afford 3 meals a day, even with me cheating with chicken eggs and stuff, because I have to feed my chickens and that costs a certain amount and blah, blah, blah. But to the point, though, when I dropped back to 1 good meal a day and snacks and little picking along the way, I realized that my body actually gets along better. I'm not having to find a toilet at weird times of the day or night, because if I make my main meal approximately the same time, the body will start doing a cycle, and you'll be able to set your watch in the next time you need to sit down on that 5-gallon bucket. So folks don't understand this. It's really simple, but it is the first basic of, in my opinion, to being a survivalist. Because if you just get chunked out of an airplane falls out of the sky in the wilderness, y'all ain't got no food at all. You go from 3 meals a day to zilch. But if you practice, if you start putting forth that with yourself, you'll find out you'll be healthier, blah, 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 blah. And if you can find things that grow in your area, and if you couldn't get away, but you could get out of town, but you knew where to buy food. So if somebody came to your apartment, if you lived in a city, and were like, "Where's your food?" "Man, I ain't got none." "Well, but you look fat and happy." "Well, that's because you got a full tank of gas, and it only takes, a half a gallon to get out there and back. But you know where to go in your neighborhood, meaning your area where you live, that you can go forage for food." Now, I bring this up because way back in the day, me being David Null, when I was growing up, Davy Crockett was famous on television, right? Davy Crockett, king of the wild frontier. So, but I've also been to places in Trade, Tennessee, across the mountains from Boone, North Carolina, and I almost bought this place. But it was one of the first trading houses, building something, because it was right on the bottom side of the Tennessee side of that Appalachian Mountain, where going west. And it was the first trading place coming from the west before you hit the mountains. So traders coming in would stop and go, "Look, I really don't want to go across the mountain." But so a trading post was set up there. Well, Daniel Boone went through there all the time, their records and stuff. It's really cool up there. Well, in doing that, I was up on that mountain where trade is and where the Tennessee and North Carolina are. And the stories are very fact. They'd say that Daniel would start out in Boone early in the morning before sunrise, and him and his pack mules or whatever would cross over the mountain and down the other side to where he would be able to do lunch. Have lunch, pack up, and deliver, and then pick up whatever was going either way, and then bring it back across the mountain just after sundown. Holy mackerel. That's a big old ass mountain. And he did that on foot with a couple of pack mules or a horse, maybe. Even if he didn't walk it, he wouldn't have been able to gallop it. They'd had, you know, the horse walk thing. Even still. So I was like, well, how they didn't stop for 3 meals a day. What did they do? They knew how to forage. Native Americans. They could run through the you know, up and down the trails all day long and never break a sweat, you know. And they didn't stop and make fires and campfires and eat and all that. No. What did they do? They foraged like a deer. So they knew what plants. Oh, look. And if they're traveling along, they might have blackberries over here, and they go a little ways, and down there, there's some cattail. Whatever it is, if you know what to look like, then as you're traveling, then you look around at your surroundings, go, oh, I know where this is. And you might actually take a side step on the trail one time because you found something over here was good to eat, you know? So, and then different seasons and so forth. So know your seasons, know what's around your area. And that right there, I mean, you're not going to have to defend your kingdom and worry about getting slaughtered if you don't have anything. But what you have is knowledge. And what you have is the ability to be able to go and forage. So that's how you survive. That's what needs to be learned right now, just in case. Hoping not, but there's some strange stuff going on right now. And if you don't have the money to go out and buy all these MREs and food and stuff, I suggest that you buy something other than beans. This is why I say that. Oh, buy up, you know, 20 pounds of beans and rice and you can make it. What do beans do to you? To most people. Beans, the magical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So let's have beans at every meal. Now, if you're in close quarters and you're having problems and you're in a survival mode, the last thing you want to be doing is having to be cutting gas. And depending on how beans treat you. So yes, good source of protein. My suggestion is that you get something like lentils, because they don't make you do what beans do. Okay, not saying don't buy any beans. I'm saying don't just wait. That was a negative. Do buy peas, black-eyed peas, some field peas. You can buy them dry. Black-eyed peas store real well, but they treat your stomach a lot differently than, say, some black beans will or pinto beans or anything that says bean per se. But you can get a lot of dried peas. Lentils are great. They store easy. They're easy to cook. They just, you know, high in protein, or maybe not protein. Anyway, they're good for you. All right. And they're cheap. So you can go to the store with $30 if you know what you're looking for and get you some solid, you know, put them in a, I have way too many jars. I'm going to have to just throw something out, but I just, you know, but you know, these mason jars aren't real expensive and you can get a lot of lentils in this one mason jar right here. And if you're careful and doing the one meal and supplement with little things on either side, man, it'll last you a long time. And it's like, okay. And I'm here to tell you, if you've got something in some mason jars and just kind of put up somewhere and it's a dried lentil, somebody coming into your house going, what the hell is that? They're going to go right by because they don't know how to cook it. They don't know what it is. They're going to open up the jar and go, I don't know what them little seed looking things are, and pass it by. So there's simple things you can do that will keep you very healthy, that will keep you, you know, from dying or starving or going hungry. And you can feed other people too. Now, one other thing that it was just a reminder, I'm going to cut this off, is that I think it was Dr. Hook in the Medicine Show. Maybe not. It might have been somebody else, but way back in the 60s and early 70s, there was a song called, I think it was The Wonderful Soup Stone. Okay. Now, old timers know this. And I remember my granny and Großmutter, meaning grandmother in German. Anyway, I won't go there. But anyway, but well, yeah, okay. Großmutter was straight from Germany before World War. Actually, I guess right after World War One. So my grandma was born here and everything. Großmutter, though, she spoke broken German and hard to understand, but she was from the old country. And what they did in the old days, and some folks still do it up in the mountains, Appalachians, this was like a big deal. But the roots of the folks in Appalachia, a lot of Germans, a lot of Irish, a lot of, so they brought these things with them from Europe. And one of the things they brought was called a soup stone. Now, there are some stones that are better than others in absorbing flavors. And but there was a certain kind of just like a river rock, smooth all around kind of thing. And that when Großmutter used to cook a stew or whatever it was that she was cooking, a lot of sauerkraut, which, don't go. I like sauerkraut, but it don't go with my stomach well. So, but anyway, she would put that soup stone in the bottom of the pot. And whatever got cooked, just cook. The stone stayed in there. At the end of it, it was pulled out. It was put in the refrigerator or maybe in another pot. But when times got rough and there wasn't much around, they'd pull that soup stone out with a couple potatoes and maybe a carrot or two, a little bit of greens that they pulled off the dandelion or whatever, and plop that soup stone in there and bring it to a nice little boil. And it would just bring the flavor of whatever was in that soup stone that had been cooked before and made a soup. And that sustained a lot of people in the old days. Now, the other thing, too, is that what we don't look at anymore, simple things like that. Great grandma cooking a rock with the food. But what else was happening there? She was putting minerals into the food. Oh, my God. Throw a rock in your pot when you make some stew. Oh, my God. So when you heat it up and the water boils and all that, there are trace mineral thingies coming off of the rock. And at the same point, the rock is absorbing the flavors of what you cook. And also, there was also like this little saying I remember. It was something like soup stone, hold in the flavor or hold in the taste or something like that. It was kind of a broken German, but translated. And so soup stone, keep us all well. So it was like just a little kid's rhyme, right? But she would say this, though, when she put it in, when she took it out. So there was a reverence to this stone. And different people had larger rocks. I knew this one family, there were like 5 kids, plus a husband and wife. So there's 7 people eating every meal. And so she had a big rock. But there were times then all they had in the wintertime, though, was some collard greens and a little this and that. And when they didn't have enough fat back or whatever to put in with the greens to help out the taste, boom, that rock went in there. And a little bit extra salt and a pinch of sugar maybe. And man, them greens taste like you had fat back pork in them. Ooh, them big greens would be good, I tell you what. So these are old-timey things. And hopefully it won't take a long time for this stuff to go on. And they are tiptoeing very carefully so that we don't go into a recession, and we stay away from the idea that, people are going to turn into cannibals and it's going to be, Mad Max and Thunderdome. But just stop and think for this, just as an example. A week or so ago, gentleman turned an armored car sideways on the bridge there near Hoover Dam. Now, I've been around, I haven't been across that bridge, but I have been to the Hoover Dam inside, took the tour, on top, got pictures. We even went out to Lake Mead when there was a marina there and jet skied on the at the top of. In fact, that year me and my brother was there, 99. That was one of the highest levels, and the river hasn't. I mean, the Lake Mead hasn't been that high since my brother and I were there. We were there at the peak, and I mean, when I look at the pictures of the lake now and all that white showing, there wasn't any white showing when we were there. And I mean, we went right up to the top of the dam where the towers are. There's a cable that goes across there. We stopped the jet skis, got off and swam on that cable. Took some pictures. Yeah, it was great. So I've been around, but what if there are just a couple of key locations that the road's cut off? I don't mean a bridge falling or anything. I'm talking just clogged. I mean, what would happen in, like, you know, when we were down around San Francisco and down in there? What would happen if just a couple of cars stopped any traffic on the Golden Gate or on the other bridges or anything like that? What if they just got clogged and people couldn't move? What if trucks can't get in? What if something happened and somebody just put a bunch of debris? I'm not talking about blowing anything up now. I'm just saying, what if a car stalls across the railroad tracks and a shipment of something can't get through? Our infrastructure can be stopped really quickly with just a couple of weird things, like just a bunch of cars on the road. It doesn't have to be blowing up stuff. All it has to do is block it. And if enough traffic is blocked for a certain amount of time, if it's even 3 or 4 days, there are stores that are going to go out that are just going to go empty. And then people, their brains are going to go, oh my God, we're out of food, we're out of food. Well, that's because back in 2003, 2004, they brought into something in the United States called just in time. Now, it used to be the companies had a warehouse near where they made their product. And there was enough in that warehouse for at least a week of them delivering to wherever they go. Well, all these pencil pushers and economic idiots that, like I say, they're saving the company money. But if something happens during the manufacturing process, for whatever reason, and it stops. So if you have only 3 days worth of inventory and no warehouse with a week's worth of inventory on the local level, whoops, people don't understand that. What we used to have 10 years ago, we don't have now, because the economy has gotten crazy. These economists have gotten into these corporations, and oh my God, what used to be a really good plan, well, you know, they're going to save money on the rental of a warehouse. Okay, and we're going to cut the salary or 2 or 3 or maybe 5 people that worked at that warehouse. Okay. But now if something happens on the production line, they're screwed. They're working people 3 shifts, 7 days a week because they refuse to have their economic outline, plot, whatever, is such that they only have the capability of storing 3 days worth. And they're so far behind because they gave up their warehouses. I have a friend of mine who works in a peanut butter factory, and they're killing their employees. Folks are just, they're dropping in the heat, this, that, and the other thing. They're working 7 days on and 1 day off. And this has been going on for a year. They can't hire enough people there because when they lost their warehouse of a week or 2 of supply, now they can't keep production up at all. They don't have 3 days worth of supply. And if a machine goes down for an hour, they've already lost how many thousands of jars of peanut butter, and how much have they lost? And this is a local company. We grow peanuts down here in South Georgia. So if they're having trouble locally, where's the peanut butter? I mean, you know, peanut butter doesn't come from everywhere. I don't know if they grow peanuts in Kansas, but usually it's down here, you know, in some of these southern states. So, you know, hey, you know, well, peanut butter. Wait, what if you don't have any peanut butter? And you should, because peanut butter keeps forever, you know, and it's good, high in protein, blah, 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 unless you're allergic to peanuts. But to the point, though, that's something. A dab of peanut butter on your mouth if you're hiking and walking, just keep going. A jar of honey and a jar of peanut butter can get you through some really tight spots. I'm telling you. I've lived it. So, but to the point though, now, no, not everybody can do it, but if you got a savvy mind and you have to go into some kind of survivor mode, then guess what? This is going to come in handy. If you're going to go into a store and you got a couple extra bucks, I'd buy an extra jar of peanut butter. And, you know, anyway. All right. So watch the skies, watch the moon. Tomorrow on the 28th will be the strawberry moon of June. Also the solstice moon. There is a bunch of lunar energy right now. And as a lot of spirits are saying, it's a good time to go out and do some lay out and get some moon rays. I can't think of, what do you do when you lay out in the sun? You sunbathe, moonbathe. Yeah, there you go. But anyway, so the energies are saying that moonbathing tomorrow, the next day, there's a lot of high energies coming in. And you don't have to put on sunscreen for it, at least not yet. So many blessings to all of you. I love you from the bottom of my soul heart and from my soul heart to you. Spread the word to other folks. We're going to have to stay calm. Everybody's got their fingers crossed that this is going to go a whole lot easier than what it was going to be. A lot of pressure's been taken off. They're positioning these other planets and rocks in space to help out when this wave hits us, to dissipate. So all the things that some of these folks are trying to get you to go into fear with, just calm down. To some people, this is probably going to be scary mess. And if you're listening to me, then hopefully this will give you a little bit of a different point of view. I mean, I've been through tornadoes and hurricanes and, man, you know, devastation from storms. I can't really think of, I mean, when I think of some of the things I've already been in with hurricanes in Florida and rains and floods and things here at this place, but in other places, and floods and water and storms and yeah. The only thing that hasn't happened here has been a really severe earthquake. But to that point, I've had everything else. So I'm not really scared. A tip. Do you know what your elevation is where you live? This tip is brought to you by the Galactics. You should be away from the coast at least 20 miles. 50 is better, but 20 miles. You should be, if possible, at least 50 feet above sea level, okay? Regardless of where you're at, you should be at least 50 feet above sea level. I'm being told that 200 foot is like a safe zone, okay? However, they're trying to keep that mitigated. We'll see. The earth is sloshing. We'll see. But if you're worried about where you're going to go, don't look at where as much as how high am I and how far away from an ocean. All right. So that away from me towards the west and is the Atlantic and a lot of flat land called the Okefenokee Swamp. That away from me is the Gulf of Mexico. So I got water kind of in two directions, but I'm a long way from it. I'm 100 and some odd miles that way and 100 and some odd miles that way to the water. My elevation here at the lowest point on my property is 210 feet above sea level. The highest point on my property is 382 feet above sea level. So I know what my elevation is. Now, if something happens and there's a big wave that might come off of the coast of Africa or, yeah, whatever, I can't remember the name of the island, but they're talking about a huge tsunami. So where can you go? It's going to take a little bit of time for it to get there. Find a way to get to higher ground. Well, you might travel a long distance, but actually not gain any altitude, depending on where you live. And it might be that if you knew where the hills are, you could go a shorter distance, but a higher elevation, and that's what you should look for. So that's the warning for folks out there. That's a longer one, but we're still being warned about this, okay? There's still issues with the Gulf and that. I was talking about hot springs in Arkansas, and this is going to be my tail end. Under Arkansas, the reason there is a hot spring is because there's magma not too far under the surface, okay? Think about that. And that's what I was shown. It was like, well, what would happen if the hot springs started acting like that geyser out in Yellowstone that would erupt like once every 2 or 3 years, Steamboat Springs or something, and it's erupted like 12 times this year alone? What if Hot Springs, Arkansas started acting like a geyser? Arkansas is really close to the New Madrid. It's really close to all them salt domes I've been talking about over the years. Wait a minute. You mean that magma's moving under? Yep, magma's moving under the earth. Yep, all kinds of volcanoes are waking up. Yep, Guatemala, boom. Okay, that's just south of us. If the magma's still moving, and it is, it's going to want to start finding other places to poke up. What's happening? Steamboat geysers going off. Okay, Hot Springs, Arkansas. I would be very, very careful if I went to Hot Springs, because if an anomaly happened, that water could start boiling really quick. The next other thing, if the hot springs are being heated by the magma in the earth, which it is, thus the hot springs, that also means that magma could find its way up and turn into a volcano there. So I was showed a couple of years ago, quit trying to move to Arkansas. And I was, but the Ozark, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, but I don't have a volcano where I'm living here. And when I look around all other kind of stuff, Creator has made me stay here. I mean, I was going to get some property in Arkansas and drive back and forth, and that was a nix. So I'm like, well, why do you want me here? Elevation, drainage, other things, okay? And the fact that I don't have a volcano under my feet. But if I'm in Arkansas, on that fault, etc. So I love you all. Take care. Be sweet. And compassion is going to get us all down to the next level. Kindness, compassion, what I've been complaining about for years. Just be nice to one another. Till next time, keep it between the ditches. Love your neighbor as yourself, as the good Lord.